Social media lied to you. Honestly, it's full of bad financial advice just in general, and today we're tackling one of the biggest myths floating around, and that is you don't owe debt collectors anything because you only owed money to the original creditor. Sounds nice, right? The problem? It's completely false. I mean, and it's all over the place. Like, look at this video right here. For those of you who are on the audio feed, I apologize, but it's this gentleman. This video has over 400,000 views, like 9,000 likes. Basically just saying, like, if a debt collector purchased the debt, it doesn't belong to you anymore, so you don't owe it. Totally wrong. We're going to get into exactly why that is, but this is everywhere on social. It's all over YouTube, it's all over TikTok, Instagram, etc. And it's wrong. So let's talk about why that is. As always, everybody, hey, I'm Ben. I'm the co-founder of Upsolve and the host of the Break Free podcast, where we help you take control of your debt and build the financial future that you deserve. On this show, I share my personal experiences and my insights, but I'm not a financial advisor or an attorney. This podcast is for informational purposes only. As always, seek professional advice for your specific situation. Now, we release new episodes of the show every Monday morning, so be sure to subscribe if you want real-time, no BS financial guidance. And today, we're setting the record straight on debt collectors and what really happens if you don't pay collections. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's the social media myth that just won't die. As I mentioned, you've probably seen videos from this guy. I've seen some videos on YouTube about this, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, saying don't pay debt collectors. You don't owe them anything. And on the surface, it sounds logical because you signed a contract with the original creditor, right? So how does this random collection agency now claim that you owe them money? Here's the truth. If a debt collector legally bought your debt, then they own it. That means they have every right to collect on it. The original creditor wrote off your debt and sold it, often for pennies on the dollar, but legally it still belongs to someone, and that someone can take you to court if you ignore their efforts to collect. Now, that said, there is a sliver of truth in these social media claims, and that is that you should never blindly agree to pay a debt collector without first demanding that they do something called validating the debt. This means they must prove that they legally own the debt and that the amount of the debt is correct. But that's very different from saying you never have to pay them. So let's break down what actually happens if you don't pay a debt that is in collections. So step one, the nonstop calls and letters will start. Now, I remember this happening when I was struggling with debt. Those of you that have been in collections in the past know what this is like. It sucks. Like, you have people calling you all day, all night, multiple times a day, sending you emails. They may even call your workplace or contact your relatives in an effort to get in touch with you. It's so stressful. But you do have rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, also known as FDCPA. And you can learn more about that by Googling FDCPA. You can also take a look at the article that is linked in the description here. It'll explain more about the FDCPA from our nonprofit Upsolve's perspective. Now, you can request that the debt collector stop calling you, but that doesn't make the debt disappear. The second step that'll happen is your credit score will take a hit if you ignore debt collectors. A debt in collections will tank your credit score, especially if you're not paying on it, making it harder to get approved for loans, credit cards, or even rent an apartment. That stays on your credit report for up to 7 years, even if you eventually pay it off. So it's a really, really bad idea to just ignore debt collectors. Now, step three, the debt collector could sue you. This is where things get really serious and really difficult. If you ignore collections for long enough, the debt collector can file a lawsuit against you. And the amount of time that it takes will vary from state to state, area to area, debt to debt, collector to collector. So it's important that you understand something called the statute of limitations for your state, because that'll tell you when they're likely to sue you. But the bottom line is they can sue you at any point in time if you're not paying them. And then if you don't show up to court, the judge will likely issue something called a default judgment against you. Default judgment. Now, scary term. Basically what that means is the person suing you wins because you didn't show up to argue for yourself. They would win automatically, even if that debt, doesn't actually belong to you. So it's important that you at least respond if they do in fact sue you. Now, once a judgment is issued from a court, here's what can happen. This is where it gets real gnarly. So first thing is wage garnishment. They can actually take money directly from your paycheck. So not even just take money from you, but take it directly from your paycheck automatically. Another thing that can happen is the bank account the debt collector can levy your bank account, which means they can seize money directly from your bank account. So it's not even like I have to send in money. They can just take it out of your bank account. You can also experience something called property liens, which means that if you own a home, the debt collector could place a lien on it, making it difficult to sell or refinance, because what that would mean is they get the first portion of that sale price for the money that you owe them. So I hope this helps you understand, like, in other words, ignoring the problem only makes it worse. You absolutely do need to repay debt collectors. Now, there is a smarter way to handle it. So let's talk about the smart way to handle debt collection. If you have a debt in collection, you should do some things before you make any payments. And I think this is like the kernel of truth in the social media, the confusion, lie. I don't even know what it is. It's just wrong. So the first thing you should do is you should request debt validation, which is like an official process. You send a written request asking the debt collector to prove that the debt they're saying you owe is actually yours and that they have the legal right to collect it. It also will say what the amount of the debt is, who they bought it from, all of those things. And those things are important because if the amount is wrong, you would have to figure out what the correct amount is before you agreed with them. Because again, another kernel of truth in the social media world is they say, once you start paying them, you're agreeing to what they're saying. And that is, in a sense, true. And you want to make sure that you get the amount correct before you start repaying them. Thing number 2 is you want to know your rights. Collectors can't harass you. They can't lie to you. They can't threaten illegal actions. If they do, they can threaten legal actions. They can't threaten illegal actions. And if they do, you can report them to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Just Google Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, creditor misbehaving or something like that, and you'll find forms and ways to report them. Now, third thing you can do is you should negotiate a settlement. You can negotiate a settlement. Now, what does that mean? If the debt is valid and you can't pay it in full, you may be able to settle for less than the total amount that you owe. Some collectors will accept 50% or even less if you can pay a lump sum. Now, in some instances, you can also do a longer term payment plan, but you get the best deal generally if you do a lump sum. If you don't want to negotiate a loan, we have a referral partner called SoloSuit, or used to be called SoloSuit. Now they're just called Solo. I've referred to them before. You can check out their website over here. Use the link in the description. If you do go over there, that helps. They give us a referral fee if you sign up. That helps us keep these shows free and offer free debt relief services to people who need them. Great company. Really do a great job with helping you reply to debt lawsuits as well as settling debt lawsuits if that's something that you want help doing in that process. So check out their website. Number 4, as I mentioned, don't ignore the lawsuit. If you're sued, do not ignore any court papers. You have to respond to the lawsuit with something called an answer formally, and that can buy you some time while you negotiate a settlement or work out a payment plan before things escalate. SoloSuit can also help you draft that. As I mentioned, you can see that over here on their website, reply to a debt lawsuit. So take a look at that. Now, this is something you can do on your own. A lot of times courts will have like a clerk's office or some legal aid support where they will say like, hey, if you want to come in, file an answer to a lawsuit on your own, we'll kind of help walk you through that. But if you do feel like you need help, Solo can be a great option for that. Now, another thing you want to do is you want to explore all of your options, because if you're dealing with a debt collector, you actually do have options. You don't necessarily have to repay them. Even if it's before a lawsuit, you don't necessarily have to repay them. Upsolve has free tools. I've mentioned them in the past on our website here. You can access them on the article that covers the topic we're covering today here, linked in the description of this video. There is a button, Get Free Debt Help, right there. You can click on this, and this free tool will walk you through the process of figuring out which way to get out of debt will work for you. That might be a debt settlement plan. It could be a debt management plan. It could be filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And when you get out of debt, collectors are no longer a problem, right? Because you've paid back your debt. And something like bankruptcy, if you file bankruptcy, as soon as you file, most collection efforts have to stop. So if you do have creditors harassing you, we still have to do something about that. And filing bankruptcy can be that something in many cases if you're eligible for that. And Upsolve can help you figure out if you're eligible on our website, upsolve.org, at the link linked in the description. Okay, so here's what you need to remember. Debt collectors can sue you. Hear this. If you don't hear anything else, hear this. Debt collectors can sue you. You do have to repay them. Ignoring them won't make your debt go away. Social media advice saying you don't owe a debt collector is flat out wrong. So ignore this guy, ignore anybody like him who's saying something like that. It's flat out wrong. If the debt collector legally owns your debt, you do owe them the money that they're asking for. You at least owe them something after you've done a validation to make sure that what they're asking for is correct. Always, always, always ask for debt validation before making any payments to a debt collector. And if you get sued, do not ignore the lawsuit. Now, if you need guidance on handling your debt, check out Upsolve's free resources to understand your options, upsolve.org, also linked in the show notes down below. Also, don't forget that we host weekly live Q&A sessions with debt relief experts. You can head over to our channel's live page for details on upcoming and past sessions. It's a great chance to get your questions answered in real time, whether that's about a debt collection or something else. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe to the Break Free podcast. We release new episodes every Monday morning, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. Also, if you know somebody who's falling for these social media myths or who's struggling with debt and debt collectors, share this episode with them. It might just save them from a financial disaster, and it'll help them break free from their debt and move forward towards financial freedom. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time for another episode of Break Free.